Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire,
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
Back on the Broomstick.
Welcome to Back on the Broomstick, the podcast where two witchy best friends get together to read magical books, cast wicked spells, and interview cool pagan people. Today, interviewing Byron Ballard, I'm Laylla.
And I'm Chelle. And this is so exciting, I could just burst.
Oh, I'm thrilled. We have been waiting for this forever, since before Sacred Space Conference, but definitely since March when we got to actually meet Byron at Sacred Space. And of course, after reading her book, Small Magics, she's just cool. I can't wait to talk to her.
And we also had the pleasure of being able to attend a couple of her workshops at Sacred Space. And let me tell you, if you get the opportunity, you got to sit in on one of these. So let's bring in Byron.
Byron is a teacher, a folklorist, and a writer who has served as a featured speaker and teacher at festivals and conferences, including Sacred Space that Chelle and I were recently at, where we had the great privilege and a lot of fun, to be honest, to sit in some of her workshops. She's also a senior priestess and co-founder of Mother Grove Goddess Temple and the Coalition of Earth Religions out of Asheville, North Carolina. Chelle and I would love to welcome to Back on the Broomstick, Byron Ballard. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this a lot. We had so much fun at Sacred Space.
We did.
That I thought, this will be great. Hanging out with those gals is going to be great.
You know, you actually gave us a heart attack before we ever even saw you at Sacred Space.
No, how?
Well, we were so excited that you were there and we were going to get to be at some of your workshops. And as we're walking around, just kind of soaking in the ambiance and seeing everyone that was there,
this lovely man approaches us and he goes, "Are you Laylla and Chelle?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Have you talked to Byron yet?" And we're like,
no. Were we supposed to?
And he's like, yeah, you are supposed to. She's looking for you. And we're like, oh boy.
At first we're like, are we the right Laylla and Chelle? Does he have the right people?
And it was Sam. It was Sam that we encountered.
Sam and I, we are old buddies from way, way back.
I can see why. Fabulous. I love Sam. We're hoping to have him on at some point in the future as well to talk about metal magic.
You really should.
And his wife's tea shop.
Yes. Oh gosh,
my
yes.
God. That tea shop. I just have to, for a minute, just give me 1 minute. I've been in a lot of tea shops in my time because I'm a tea drinker. I love tea. And he took me in on the way to Sacred Space. We went by to load up on some tea for the trip. And it is the most beautiful tea shop I've ever seen anywhere, bar none. Just exquisitely beautiful.
Makes me want to go to North Carolina and check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, please come before we elect somebody as our governor who doesn't think women have the right to vote, would you?
Good gracious.
Oh,
we will. We definitely will.
Oh my God.
Hopefully that does not happen. So that was shocking at Sacred Space, to be honest.
We fangirled for a few minutes because a few months prior to that, we actually did a review not too far back on Small Magics. So when we realized that you were going to be at Sacred Space with us, we kind of had a fangirl moment. And then to get there and have Sam say that you were looking for us, we were like, us? Who, us?
That is so funny. I went to look at your Instagram today and saw you two were so cute about, we're going to Sacred Space. Look, we're going to Sacred Space. So did you have a wonderful time?
We did. We even got matching tattoos while we were there.
We did.
No way.
Yeah,
yes.
We did.
Oh, they're beautiful. No, I saw them. You posted them on Instagram.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
We have, just like the podcast is called Back on the Broomstick, we are witchy friends from way back, and we used to do festivals and conferences a while ago. And then there was a long kind of break. And so it's really fun to get back into doing it again, especially with Chelle, and just to have these experiences and go to workshops and conferences and just meet cool people and learn new things. And it's just absolutely wonderful, no matter when you get to go.
Yeah, it's really true. And Sacred Space is, for my money, it's the high-end conference.
Yeah. Oh,
You're going to meet
yes.
some not so experienced people, but the majority of the people there are really high functioning magic workers. So if you have a question, and you could pose it on TikTok and get 20,000 bad answers, but you can actually go up to somebody who's been doing this for 40 or 50 years
Mhm.
and say, "This is my predicament. What do you suggest?" And they're happy to answer that question.
I like how Sacred Space kind of promotes itself for the intermediate to advanced, because there
Mhm.
are those conferences and festivals that are geared more towards beginners,
Yeah,
and Sacred Space kind of it sets that bar for itself, and it well meets and exceeds it.
yeah.
I just wish I had more time and could go to all of the workshops because too many good ones were at the same time.
Right?
Yeah, that's really true. So does this mean you all are going to start doing a little more festival and festivating and conferencing?
Absolutely. We're both presenting at a Central New York Pagan Pride.
Oh, cool.
Are you going to Brushwood this year? Because I'm
I
presenting
am
again at
not.
Brushwood. Oh, okay.
I love the land at Brushwood, and I've
Hmm.
been to Sirius Rising twice. For me, the point of doing festivals and cons is to really connect with other people. And if I'm not
Absolutely.
doing that, if I'm basically hanging out with my buddies, I could do that way closer to
Without
home.
the 12-hour drive.
Right.
Exactly, exactly.
But yes, we are planning on doing more. We have some workshop proposals out. We actually got a hint from you today
Um,
about Convocation 2025. So we're talking about workshops and rituals for that next year.
you should totally do it. I had a wonderful time.
Because that was one thing that we really liked about Sacred Space is the fact that there was actual several ritual options during the
Mhm.
conference,
Yeah.
not just workshops and classes, but actual ritual options during that. And that was kind of a nice added thing that we haven't, when we were doing these 15, 20 years ago, that wasn't kind of a part of the festival atmosphere necessarily. So
Right.
to see that added in is very, very exciting.
Mhm.
It is. And what I also love about Sacred Spaces now, they've got built in like social time
Yeah,
because in addition to learning from other people and meeting new people and doing ritual, it's really important for people like us to be able to sit down in a fairly relaxed atmosphere and say, "This is what's going on in my community. What's happening in your community? This
right.
is what's going on with me. What's going on with you?" That keeping that connection and network going is of prime importance.
Especially nowadays, I think it's vital that we all keep communication open and talk a lot because so much is happening right now.
And there still is something to be
Mhm.
said for in-person, face-to-face
Yeah.
communication.
There's no substitute as far as I'm concerned.
Now, I do have a question that does kind of relate to festivals a little bit, but I'm going to
Okay.
take you back for a minute. In 2019, I believe you were part of an interfaith panel that you said was more like four Abrahamics and one witch, you. And
Uh-huh.
in that interview, you described yourself as, quote, a genuine tree-loving dirt worshiper, which I loved. I very much related to that comment. Now, with that in mind, as someone who is very much an outdoors dirt worshiping witch, what are your favorite witchy ways to feel connected to the earth when you're somewhere that you can't really get outdoors, like at a hotel conference, like Sacred Space, or if you're somewhere in a city where you can't necessarily go, say, hug a tree? Do you have any earthy, natural ways to connect?
I do.
We have had people say, explain to us how are you making these same connections when you're in the city or in confined spaces?
I am going to take you back even farther to about 2005.
Oh,
And there was there still is a religious community here in Asheville. And it's I referred to it as New Age, Neo-Pagan Methodist. So it was all creation spirituality. It was the Matthew Fox stuff.
hmm.
And their leader, their pastor, had gone to Japan, and he was lamenting the fact that he felt like he had never really been on the land in Japan because he landed at the airport. He was on the tarmac. He was on concrete. He was in a car. He was in the car going to a hotel. He stayed in a hotel. He was never on like raw soil.
Like the dirt between his toes kind of thing.
Yeah. And here I likened it to this. So if you and I were to meet and it was wintertime and you were in those gorgeous woods that are behind you and it was colder than whiz, and we gave each other a great big hug while wearing our winter coats, does that mean we didn't give each other a hug because we had clothes on? No.
No.
What that meant is that there was a layer of stuff between us, but spirit doesn't see that. Spirit doesn't feel that. So to be in an urban setting, to be in a human built environment is an opportunity to rebrand everything you know and reframe everything you know about nature. Because we think nature is, I'm out on the land. Oh, look, there are herbs, there are trees. Oh, look at the sky, all of that. It's all lovely. But if we're talking about energy signatures, they are all over urban settings. So if, for instance, you want to cross through a liminal space and into another place, you hit the traffic signal button and you wait for the red hand to become the little green walking person. And then you walk through that energetic liminal space to the other side. So you can use that in the same way we would use any kind of walking a labyrinth or setting up a kind of energetic boundary to walk. Everything that we can do on raw land can be done in an urban setting. We would not poo-poo being in Stonehenge or Avebury and go, oh, well, but I mean, it's not really nature because it's a built environment. No. As if it's an ancient built environment, then we're like, oh, but feel the energy. It's so
special.
powerful and amazing. Oh my God. So I think it's up to humans and it's up to pagans and witches to understand that a built environment is still a magical environment. You just have to reframe it in your head to work for you. You have to connect with the energy of the place and the spirit of the place and figure out where the spirits are. So, yes, it's easy to know where land spirits are in my backyard. You go in my backyard and there are places that you go to them and you go, oh, whoa. Calm down, y'all. Calm down. It's the same is true in a skyscraper. So you go into a skyscraper and is it the elevator? I mean, do spirits love to hang out in the elevator because it's always moving? Or do the spirits of that building go to the basement because they really want to be kind of in the bowels of the building? So it requires us to work a little bit differently, but not really. It requires us to reframe in our heads what nature is. And so the built environment is still the environment. All that concrete and steel and stone and brick, that all comes from the earth. It doesn't come from anywhere else.
Now that kind of segues, it's a little bit of a left turn, but it kind of segues into a question I have. Now,
She's good at that.
I am good at that. Now we might have to pause on my question and talk about some pronunciation because Layla's been getting her hand slapped. You are if I'm saying this wrong, please correct me, and we'll get into why Layla and I do say it wrong. You are an Appalachian folklorist. Is that correct?
Okay. This is one of those, why do people answer a question with a question? So the Appalachian range is vast. In fact, I had an interview with a man on Monday who is in Nova Scotia, which is the end of the Appalachian range. I was invited to Pittsburgh years ago, doesn't matter when, a while back. And where I live, which is the Southern Highlands, we say Appalachia and Appalachian. And the way to remember that is if you say Appalachia, I'm going to throw an apple at you. So we say Appalachia.
Is it different in the north?
It is. So I arrive in Pittsburgh, which is very Appalachian in a lot of ways. And they meet me at the airport and they hug my neck and they go, we just wanted to really be clear that we are Appalachian too. And so that kind of chill went up and down my spine like, well, if you are, why do you say it wrong? The truth of the matter is that it is a long mountain range of multiple cultures. So in my culture, Appalachia and Appalachian are the appropriate way to say those words. In Pennsylvania, It may, in fact, be Appalachia and Appalachian.
Yes.
There's somewhere else, and I can't tell you exactly where it is, where they say it with an SH. Appalachian and Appalachian.
I have to throw a little wrench into this and give you a third
Okay.
option.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
I am from originally the southern tier of New York, on the New York-Pennsylvania border. And we have a small town called Appalachian.
That's spelled the same way.
Oh, I've heard that. I've
No,
heard that
no,
too.
it's got one less P. There's
Oh,
only
okay.
one P. So we have
Appalachian.
Appalachia.
Appalachia.
We just were getting confused. But so now that we know that it is kind of a regional pronunciation,
Exactly.
I'm going to segue back to my question.
Okay.
So I love, especially Small Magic's awesome book. Everybody who
Thank
hasn't read it
you.
really needs to go get
Yeah.
it. But speaking of kind of that quote unquote magic of place, how does someone take a book or some knowledge that's similar to Small Magic's, talking a kind of, taking some of the Appalachian folklore and translating that to say city urban life? What if I live in New York City but want to translate some of those small magics to my big city life? Do you have a good explanation of how to kind of transfer that Appalachian magic to your place?
Yes. And first, I'm going to say small magic is not Appalachian at all. It is the building blocks of a basic magical practice. You can do that anywhere. I think you assume that because that's the way Llewellyn marketed it. So for Llewellyn, I am their Appalachian girl. So everything I do has to have Appalachia on it.
I gotcha.
So small magic, what is it? The Secrets of an Appalachian Village Witch. That's not my title.
Yes.
None of that is my title.
Gotcha.
I wrote Small Magic, so I'm going to go back a little bit. You know how we do. I wrote Small Magics because I'd been teaching a class for years called Simple Practical Magic. I started teaching that because I kept running into primarily young people, but also new people who were not young, who had absolutely no idea how to practice magic. They read thousands of spell books and they can find a spell for whatever the thing is they're doing. But the things that I learned literally decades ago about grounding yourself deeply, pulling energy out of the earth, pulling energy from the cosmos, pulling energy from all around you into you, and not using your own personal energy or your life force. You pull that energy into you, you store it in the battery between your breastbone and your belly button, and then you use that. That's what you use. Well, I would say that, and these new people would be like, I don't understand. You mean I don't just point my $700 magic wand and say this spell that I read in a book? That's not how magic works. No, darling, that's not how magic works at all. So as one does, and I know that neither of you have ever done this because it's so ridiculous. I got into an argument on Facebook with somebody.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I know. What? Shoo, it's a thing, never happens.
No.
And I was so exasperated. I said, "Oh my! Do I just need to write a book about magical practice?" And to be fair, my editor Llewellyn saw that and said, maybe a couple hours later, we should talk about that. So that is the genesis of the Small Magics book. And then, of course, I had to laugh at them because only a publisher like Llewellyn would take a concept as big as the building blocks of genuine magical practice and call it Small Magics. So
good point. It really does have all those building blocks in it and things that you can do. And, it's funny that you said that because Chelle and I, not too long ago, did a couple episodes on that very topic, the fact that a lot of witches are reading these spells online or in a book, and they're just reading them. And like you said, pointing their $700 magical wand at their $500 crystals and wondering why it's not working. Right. They don't have those basic building blocks of raising that energy, holding it, raising a cone of power, or however you refer to it, releasing and then grounding that energy. It's surprising how little of that knowledge is out
There's
there.
work that goes into magic. It isn't just buying magic. You have to put work into it. You can't just throw dollars at it, get your $700 wand, and boom, magic appears. You have to put the work
You
in.
have to. I mean, that's why we call it practicing magic, because if you don't practice it, you won't be good at it. And there are so many people that get shocked when I say, as I do in the book and also in that class, practice magic all the time. Don't save it for a rainy day, because by God, it is thundering right now. The storm is here. And the more you practice it, the better you'll be at it. And you all heard
Absolutely.
at some of the classes I did at Sacred Space, I often begin a class by saying, we are in parlous times. And I need any of you who consider yourselves magic workers to practice all the time so that you're adept at it. Because things are moving so fast, we can't wait for you to go, oh no, which book was that in? I need to go pull that out and look it up. You need to ground yourself, pull energy into you, get your shields up, prepare yourself, drop your seals, and do the work. And it has to happen that fast. It is
Everyday magic. Everyday magic.
every day. And start with the practicalities. So I live in a tourist town. If I'm going downtown, guaranteed I'm going to need a place to park. So perfecting a parking spell, if you're in that situation, makes sense. Learn something first that you need. Yes, every 17-year-old wants to conjure a demon. I don't know why, but they want to conjure a demon. Well, that's going to do you no good if you don't know what to do once the conjuration happens. And frankly, the conjuration is not going to happen because you don't know what to do.
Right.
But figure out what you need. What do you need?
But getting a parking spot, that is an attainable goal magically.
Yes, and you can do your math. You can go, okay, I did this working and I got a parking space. I did this working, I didn't get a parking space. So then you can do a double blind test. You can make it into science and go, well, this is the one I'm always going to use, and you use it until it doesn't work. I have people all the time who say, but isn't magic supposed to always work? And I go, no. And anybody who tells you their magic always works is either a big fat liar or they don't do a lot of magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
they're trying to get something from you.
Exactly. Because there are always times when we have to admit whatever that working is that we're trying to accomplish, it may not be our job to do. We may be negating something, a lesson that somebody else needs to learn. We may be negating the flow of history, that it has to march forward in this way. And if you interfere with it, you're in for a world of trouble.
Some things you can't intervene on.
And I call it 1, 2, 3 brick wall. So the first time I will do a general sort of ground myself, focus, do the work. If that doesn't work, the next time I'll consider the phase of the moon. I will give myself some privacy. I will walk myself through it. I'll do it and be a little more intentional about it. And if that doesn't work, the third time I will see where Mercury is. I'll see where the moon is. I'll see if the moon is void of course. I'll see what's happening with the sun. I'll raise an altar. I'll put on my best robe. I'll stink the place up with the worst incense you can imagine. I'll fling myself full length in front of the altar and beg the divines to do what I'm asking them to do. And if that doesn't work, but if you hit the brick wall with that one, it means it's not my job to do. And I can push it and push it and push it, but it's not going to work. Or if it does work, it's going to be awful.
I'm so stealing the 1, 2, 3 brick wall thing because I freaking love that. Now, I am a compulsive journaler and I have dragged Chelle along kicking and screaming. She is now also a compulsive journaler. And I
call it note taking.
I love writing spells down, components of rituals, what I did, what didn't work, what did work. And just like you said, adding to it or subtracting from it. But if you don't write those things down, you're going to forget. I always tell myself, I'll remember that chant I just made up. I will. And I don't. So, but I love the 1, 2, 3 brick wall because I think that's such a good idea. And I'm absolutely going to write it down. And I'll write it down for all of our listeners too, so that they can practice and try that too.
And it's also good practice. Know when to say when and
Yeah.
know when you did what you could, and it isn't meant to be, so move
Right.
on.
Or
Exactly.
it's not your work to do. So here you are, you're a seasoned magic worker, and you have decided you're going to take this thing on. But maybe this is the opportunity for someone who does not have as much experience to tackle a thing that seems big and hard and be successful at it. And if you go in and do it, then whatever, one more notch on your belt. But if that fairly new person does it and is successful, then you've got another strong witch in training. And we need as many of those as we can get, frankly.
Yes,
Heading to
we
the calling.
do.
Yeah,
And
yeah, absolutely.
And to take it back just a little bit to small magics and doing things every day and helping people work their own magic, you talked in there about helping people to cleanse their space. You know, as the village witch, you get called on sometimes to help someone clear energies out of a space. And a lot of times it's them. Chelle and I have are familiar with this.
You're the problem.
Yeah, they call us up and we're like, oh, honey, let's sit down and have some tea and talk first. But in the book, you mention a broom thing that you have that person actually go through their home with a broom from the front door to the back door, sweeping everything, especially the corners, to get that energy out, to cleanse their space. And that's something simple that a person can, like you said, you gave them the tool. You said, here's what you need to do. This is your mess. You need to sweep it up and clean it up with your own energy. And so rather than going into their house and being the great village witch and cleansing everything for them, you you
Here's a
gave
broom.
them.
Go clean your own shit up.
That's right. That's right. And to me, that's more, that's down to earth witchcraft. That's everyday magic,
And the other part of that is if they do it, then they are less likely to call you 3 weeks later and go, oh, you really screwed up. Because it's not good at all. I had a situation with a woman who is now moved from the realm of matter to the realm of spirit, as we say. And
The
she
traveler.
was a bit of a psycho, frankly, but a sweet woman, a very sweet woman. So she called me and my then partner to do an energy clearing in her house. But first she had to talk about it for about an hour and a half and tell us all the this and the that. So then we go through the house and do the thing we always do. And we determined she did have, in fact, a pair of sisters that were spirits that their father had built the house and they lived there. She confirmed that. Oh, yes, no, I know all about them. So, we did our whole spiel with her and it was fine for a couple months. Then she contacted us. And by then my partner was on to doing something else and she didn't do that anymore. So I went there and she said, the problem is my bedroom. So I go in the bedroom and I walk through this one area and she had a ley line that ran through her bedroom. And it was like walking into a stream of cold water all over your body. It was very, very active. And I came out and I said, well, here's the problem. You've got an energy channel, a ley line that runs through the house. And that's not unusual. We find them because the mountains here are so old. There's tons of energy lines that run across it. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, how do you fix that? And I go, oh, I don't. I mean, that's,
you move.
Yeah, you live with it. And so I suggested all these really practical things, like she was getting out of bed on that side of the bed. So she would get out of bed and step into this cold flow of energy every morning. And I mean, it could be like taking a cold shower, I guess, to invigorate you, but she didn't like it. And I said, well, if you'll get up on the other side of the bed and come around, it'll give you a chance to kind of acclimate yourself before you step through.
Ease in.
But I don't want to get out of bed on the other side.
I don't want to get out of bed on the other side. And she had told me when we were there before, there was another room that had some boxes and whatever in it. And I said, well, then if I were you, I'd move my bedroom into that room. Oh, no, I can't do that either. And I said, why can't you do that? Well, I mean, it would be a lot of trouble. And I said, well, we can get people in to help you move everything around if you'd like to do that. No, that's just not convenient. So can't you fix this? No, I fucking can't fix it. It's a ley line. Right. Even if I could fix it, you would not want the result of it.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
And so she was never happy. Never. And
No.
she was renting the house. So she finally got out of that house and moved into another house, and that was even crazier. So yes, often the person who calls you is the problem.
And sometimes the solution is practical and not magical,
Yes,
even when you're dealing with a magical situation.
exactly. Just get out on the other side of the bed. I don't
That's it.
understand why that's a problem.
Rearrange. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
And
no.
I mean, you could use that like a spa treatment, when you're
Hmm.
feeling kind of sluggish and like you got energetic barnacles all over you. Just imagine stripping off all your clothes and standing in a ley line and just like blowing it all out. And then, give yourself 15 minutes, set a timer, and then step out, and you would be like, "Ooh, invigorated."
Work with what you've got.
Yeah. I mean,
Use it to your
yeah,
advantage.
that's what we do. But we're people who do this. We do this.
That's right. That's who we are. That's what we do. Now, speaking of invigorating energy, I'm gonna call you out again on another post that you made. This one's was about this was about Beltane, and you had posted that you were up, you were cleaning your kitchen, you were doing all sorts of things, you were busy, and you're looking at your oven, thinking maybe you're gonna tackle that next. When you realized I'm still buzzing from all the energy of Beltane, and and that's something also that Shell and I have experience with. You do a ritual or a working and you don't quite ground enough and you still have all that wonderful energy just kind of buzzing around. And
Hanging around you.
yeah, what are your favorite ways to kind of ground and reconnect with, your calm centered self after something like that?
I will often have a cup of like herbal tea, and
Mm.
I'll eat something that's bready and kind of heavy. Um, my go-to comfort food is a cheese sandwich with mayonnaise, and
Oh,
it's nice
yes.
and solid, but it's not heavy and disruptive in my tummy. So I'll do that. Yeah, because that's how I solve the problem of, oh, should I clean the oven or should I go ahead and tackle the bathroom? I went, oh, wait a minute. I know what this is.
Have a sandwich.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even have a sandwich. I just laughed at myself. And then I mean, the technique I use is the one of the little roots growing out of your feet, to the bottoms of your feet. So I just dug my heels into the floor, and immediately my body went, oh yeah, home. I'm home. Good.
I can relax now.
So it was a matter of Mother Grove didn't do public rituals for several years because of COVID. We are only
Mhm.
slowly getting back to where that feels natural again. And this time we had wonderful volunteers who came early, and we decorated the space, and we set up a beautiful altar, and we put the maypole under the gazebo because it was supposed to rain all day. So it just all worked perfectly, as it does sometimes, so beautifully that at one point we all stopped because there was a little boy, maybe 3 years old, maybe four, and he had picked a dandelion that had gone to seed, and he was going to blow it and make a wish. And we stopped the entire ritual so that we could watch him and we could all have a wish with him.
I
So
Oh,
love
that's
that.
so
yeah,
cute.
it was that kind of really family, lovely, juicy. Yeah, it was all good. So I was
Magical.
buzzing from that. Yeah.
Magic.
Yep.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
magic is what
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Hmm.
This spring has been really good for that. I reconnected with part of Shell and my old community in the southern tier of New York, which was really beautiful. And being able to just be out, get in my garden and just kind of dig into the earth has been very healing, I guess. I really needed that. Seeing the dandelions, I am a dandelion fiend, so I'm just loving all the
Oh,
dandelions everywhere. But do you have any outdoor things you like to do? Any gardening or any particular, outdoor witchy type things that you like to do this time of year?
everything. Um, you haven't seen my post on Facebook today, I guess, where I said my daily practice for the past few months has been tending soil
Mm.
and planting seeds and planting plants and thinning plants and eating radishes. And all of that has been so soul enlivening and so enriching for me, because it can't only be about pouring a libation at the new moon. and saying my prayers in the morning and remembering people who are sick or dying or pregnant. There's a lot of that going on right now. What was happening 9 months ago? What was that, llamas? Yeah. So that has been my practice. But at Beltane, something changed. And it's like I can feel the religious part of my spirituality coming back in. And that's good. That's good because I'm a gardener and a farmer and writer and a witch, but I'm also a priestess. And for me, witch and priestess are two different things. So priestess is my obligation to the divine, and that in my case, that is the ancient mothers and the goddess. And then my witchery is something that is practical and daily, and which is not to say my religious stuff isn't daily too, but it's a different feel to it. So being outside, one of the lovely things is to grow things you can eat. So the radishes were amazing this year, and I kept writing about and talking about them. Today I pulled the last 2 radishes from the spring batch, and I just wiped them on my pants and ate them. So
that's how it should be.
Yeah, I think so too. So what the composted cow manure and the leaf litter and the soil and all that, yeah, I got all that too. And that's never killed anybody. So I got the flavor of those things directly from the soil. And I also spoke my gratitude for those beings, those radish beings giving their lives for me. Now, I would not want to have a diet of nothing but radishes. I love them, but too much. But for all of us to be aware that for us to exist, other things cease to exist. And to remember that. And that has to do with humility, and it has to do with acknowledged kinship to everything that is around us. But it also has to do with the practical matter of I planted the radishes. I watched the radishes grow. I shook my fist and cursed whatever was eating the radishes. That was not me. And then the radishes were done. And now there is okra where the radishes were. And it reminds me always of the cycle of the seasons and the wheel of the year, because nothing is ever linear in my world. It's a spiral. It spirals in. And right now we're in the time of spiraling out. And then we are going to hit the summer solstice and we're going to start spiraling in again.
Oh, I do love that. There's so many cycles in our lives, daily cycles, seasonal cycles, and finding a harmony in that rhythm is something that is where I find a lot of serenity, and I find a lot of that's where my daily practice comes. If I can just remember where I'm at in that spiral, sometimes just kind of paying attention to that is enough for that day. Oh, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about tea. Now, I drink tea, but not like Chelle.
I drink tea.
Chelle is a tea woman and a half, and she definitely loves that. And I know you have mentioned tea a couple times, along with Sam and his wife's beautiful tea shop. Now, we also use tea magically and in spellcraft and things like that. Do you have any tea that you like to drink, or any particular types of tea that kind of get you in a magical mood or magical space?
Well, I mean, I am completely prosaic in that I love black tea. I drink an English brand.
I agree.
I drink an English brand called PG Tips, which is kind of just basic. Go to Tesco and buy a box of tea.
Just plain old black tea.
Yeah, I'm a big black tea fan. And I like all kinds of black tea. So, oh, wait a minute. There's some real smoky thing that I don't like.
Oh, Lapsang Souchong.
I don't really like that. It's too smoky for me.
I like the Colin Hay song where he talks about Lapsang Souchong, but I don't actually like the tea.
We had a shop here in town for years and years that was called High Tea, and they baked their own bread, and they would make special blends of tea, but you could just get a pot of Earl Grey and a small loaf with some butter and cheese. And it was just the most civilized thing imaginable. And it was also affordable. This was back in the 70s. So, yeah, we spent a lot of time there in college. I use tea magically, but I use tea more as a psychological tool. So the act of, it's my own kind of tea ceremony, I guess. the act of sitting with another person and offering them this hot beverage and sitting with them and having a hot beverage together is a kind of communion that I think we often miss. And I'm sure you can do the same thing with coffee, and maybe we go to Starbucks together and we all order a coffee and we do that. But there's something about tea and the kind of fussiness of tea. Like I like black tea, just black. I don't need anything with it. But man, if I go to Britain, I'm going to want some cream and a little bit of sugar. And that's going to be tea.
Now you're speaking Chelle's language.
Yeah. My British blend, my sweet cream, and a teaspoon and a half of sugar.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the best. It sets you up for the whole day. And you can have it all day long. In fact, I stop drinking caffeinated tea at 6 o'clock every evening, or else I can't sleep. So when I got in from work, I had a really fast, because I didn't get in until 5:30. I had a really fast cup of tea with a lot of almond milk in it to cool it down enough for me to drink it before 6. And then I got wine. So that's how that worked. I think tea is remarkable. And I remember a few years back, one of our local organic grower school things did this thing called the Eat Carolina Challenge. And the challenge was that for 2 weeks, you would only eat and drink things that were grown in North or South Carolina.
Oh, very cool.
It was a lot of fun, but I had to make it harder on me by saying, I'm going to only eat things and drink things that I can grow in my backyard. And it didn't mean I had to be growing it. It just meant that it had to prosper here where I live, which meant that I didn't drink tea, but I have tons of herbs. So I would drink mint tea and I would drink sage tea, which is remarkably delicious with honey. And I didn't eat any wheat-based things because I can't grow wheat here. Well, you can, but it's really, really hard. So I ate only corn-based things. So I ate corn pone and corn fritters and things that were just made of corn. And it was, for 2 weeks, you had to be so very conscious about everything you put in your mouth. And it was a wonderful exercise. I would recommend that to anybody that wanted to get kind of centered in what they're doing, what they're ingesting for their body. It's really helpful.
As well as getting you in tune with your quote unquote magic of place.
Yes.
The magic
Yes.
of your home, your area, your surrounding.
That is so important, to pay attention to the energies and the magic where you are. Like you were saying at the beginning, even if you're in a skyscraper, there are spirits and energies there that if you're paying attention, you can connect with and work with and talk to. And it really doesn't matter where, but just connect with where you're at. And I love the idea of eating local things to kind of get you in that place.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to thank you so much for being here, but we want to give you a minute. I know you have a new book that you have been working on, Feral Church, and we're very excited about that. Can you tell us about some of your upcoming projects?
I can. 2 big things that are coming up for me. Well, I mean, they feel big to me. In June, I'm finally going to go up to the Buckland Museum and do a class at the Buckland Museum. We've been trying to do this since COVID. And I keep going, no, I can't. So finally, I'm going to be up there in June. And I'm trying to arrange maybe a book signing, maybe at Loganberry Books, and maybe another class somewhere. And then I'll go directly from Cleveland down to Wisteria, which is in southern Ohio, to do Appalachian Summer Solstice, which is one of my favorite festivals of the whole year because it's very laid back. The food is good. The land is Wisteria. You probably don't know this. Wisteria is on an old strip mine. It's reclaimed land. They've been on the land for 30 years. And you can stand on this land and you can feel it healing itself. And it's remarkable. And because it's healing itself, it comes rushing right up your body. So you get that same healing energy. And then you send that back down into the land. And the land is like, thanks for helping, and sends it back up. So it's this wonderful kind of feedback loop. Then
I love that.
my big thing this year is that I'm leading a tour to Cornwall in July.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I
Oh,
think I
yeah.
saw
wow.
that on your socials. How exciting.
I'm so excited about it. I will be more excited after this week when I've gotten my transportation straightened out because it's a little crazy. But I'm seeing two good friends who live in near Penzance, Cassandra Latham Jones and Letitia Latham Jones, who are the village witches of their village, St. Buryan. And we're going to
Nice.
have them with us the whole day, telling us all the secrets. And we're going to go to a lot of ancient monuments. We're going to do a lot of witchcraft, a lot of magic. We're going to go to Land's End, where you stand at the very edge of the sea, and the next thing is North America. I mean, it's just going to be
Wow.
a lot of fun. And it's 10 days, no, 8 days. And it's pricey, is the only thing. We don't have a huge group going because it's $4,000. But everything's inclusive except for your airfare. So that's the big thing.
But it sounds like it's worth every penny,
Oh,
though. Worth
yeah,
every penny.
yeah. I think so.
What a magical trip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then after that, I've got more things coming up, lots of stuff in October, September, doing two herb conferences, one in Alabama and one down in Wilmington. I used to do herb conferences a lot, and I had kind of fallen out of that, but I've already done one this year, and then I'll do two more. So I love doing those. I love.
Now tell us about this forthcoming book.
Okay.
I'm curious.
It is called A Feral Church. And this book, oh God, this sounds so crazy, but it's okay. You know me. You know I'm crazy.
We love crazy. That's our favorite.
I was at Wisteria, oddly enough, when I heard that Carol Christ had died. And her work I never met her, but her work had always been important to me as a goddess devotee. And as soon as I heard it, I was weeping, and a friend came over and we were drinking coffee with whiskey in it. And, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, it's so terrible. It's so terrible. And later that day, this book was kind of laid on me, as the Baptists will say, it was laid on my heart to write a goddess theology book. And so that's what this is. It's a book of how we find goddess in the wilderness. And sometimes the wilderness is inside us. It's not going out onto the land. It's going and looking at your personal baggage and history and trauma.
Wow.
And that'll be coming out, we think January of next year. But when it drops, I mean, I hate to use that for a book. When the book finally is available, with it will come a website and a series of white papers about how you, in fact, begin a feral church.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
So
I love
it's
that.
gonna be a national, and I hope international, process of tearing people away from organized religion and putting religion back into their own hands.
Yes. And we need that.
We
We
do.
need that so much right now.
We do.
Everyone needs to kind of take that power back, take our own power and speak that power.
Right.
We need to speak that into the world right now. The world really needs this.
Yes, I think so.
I'm very excited
Me
about
too.
that.
Me too.
Well, thank you so much for being with us,
Thank
Byron.
you
This has
both.
been wonderful, but we would love to have you back again sometime because you
Oh,
are just
absolutely.
so
I
fun
would
to
love
talk
that.
to.
And I would even love just having a Zoom without it being the show,
Just
so
hang
we can
out.
just chat.
Yes,
That's
I would
good.
love that
That's good
too. Yes, that is wonderful as well. And hopefully we'll see you at some more conferences. We'll hang
Yeah.
out there.
We'll
And that would be
we'll
great
compare our
too.
schedule and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really want to encourage you all to do more of that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
We're encouraging each other to do more of that
Good,
too.
because we need that as communities.
I
We
think
need that.
so.
I definitely feel like that it is kind of a witch's call to action, and it's spread the knowledge you have and help the folks take that step up and get on that journey, just like we all needed a little help on that journey. And let's continue helping people who are either starting or midway through their journey and just need a little extra information, knowledge, assistance, whatever that may
And
be.
even inspiration. We learn best by having things modeled for us. So with people
Right.
like you modeling for us how we do this, then other people can step into that and go, well, I know some people that do that.
And if they
Right.
can do it, I can do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. And they can do it because we're not that special. We're just pretty normal people. Just like
Yeah,
so if
you're
we
pretty
can do
special.
it, y'all can do
You're
it.
pretty special.
No, that's a compliment. I'll definitely take that.
Thank you.
And on that note, thank you so very much to Byron Ballard for joining us on today's Back on the Broomstick. We had a wonderful conversation and are looking forward to many more, especially when your upcoming book, A Feral Church, comes out. If you would like to see what Byron is up to, you can check out her socials. We'll have some links in the show notes. We'll also put some links to her book, Small Magics, and to the upcoming trip as well. If you're lucky enough to go, we want pictures. Email us at backonthebroomstick@gmail.com, or you can also find us on our website, our Facebook, and Instagram at Back on the Broomstick. And if you'd like, leave a comment, give us some stars, throw a review. It really helps the show out, helps other people to find us, and of course, it makes Chelle and I cackle like little witches. So thank you for all of those. We will see you next week with another episode of Back on the Broomstick. And in the meantime, be wise, be wicked, and keep it witchy.